Hi there. Well, thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. Today I want to give you a little history about how I modified this Kimball M40 organ. A matter of fact, I'm playing on the word MIDI, Midification. So I will take you through that. My previous videos that you saw for this current posting pays tribute to individuals who influenced and inspired my love for music. For the harmonica, growing up in my little church, we had Ronald Dunn, Moses Gillett, and James Allen. And then for the guitar, we had James Allen and his brother, Simeon Allen. Actually, those two Allens are my granduncles, as well as Moses Gillett. So these individuals played a definite part in my love for music. Along with that, prior to that, in the 1950s to the 60s, there was Miss Nellie Thorpe. She was our church organist, and it was one of those old organs with bellows and with reeds. All right. So I'm going to give you an account of how we got to this point where I have these apps. It actually started out with my love for electronics as well. In Jamaica, I used to buy these every month. Radio electronics now, I think that was a newer name in the 1990s. But back in the 70s and 80s, radio electronics and some other competitive magazine. But I purchased them and would actually learn from them. So I taught myself some aspect of electronics. However, I want to give a big shout out to somebody who I call my mentor, and that is Mr. Cedric Hansen. Mr. Cedric Hansen was the manager for the telecommunications branch of the Jamaica International Telecom called Jamintel. He was located in Montego Bay. And I spent quite a lot of time with him on Sundays, where we would be exploring amplifiers. As a matter of fact, I bought my first amplifier, a tube amplifier. It was a Heathkit tube amplifier, and I can still remember the tube 6AU, 6L6, and some others. All right, and from that he taught me how to build the amplifier. Well, before that, I was kind of on theory, because I purchased books and this was before I went to college, and I would support my hobby through reading, through books, and so forth. And so Mr. Hansen helped me there in building amplifiers and appreciating the biasing and so forth. And then further on, I have to give a shout out to my old college, College of Arts, Science and Technology, Jamaica, and now the University of Technology, Jamaica. I was a student there in the early 1980s, where I studied industrial electronics. And that is where something that Mr. Hansen said kind of materialized. We were talking about organs one day, and he told me about organs that that actually had gears, or a series of gears to create the tones, and eventually I came to realize that was the Hammond organ, and so I built this project, this electronic organ project, from one of those magazines, and This time I was working with the Jamaica Telephone Company. Shout out to them too. And well, I think they've probably changed names now. At that time, I spent my time building an organ. Show you on the video here, and it took me quite a while, and I collected scrap electronic circuit boards, old radios, and so forth, and took off the parts that I could use, transistors, capacitors, and all of these things. That organ required, however, it actually required a couple of devices, and these were CMOS. Now the first one was the 12-note generator, which was called the top octave generator. They do not make them anymore. With some of the modern technology, you can recreate them. So what happened is that I actually thought of going back and recreating that organ, because for this one, the Kimball M40, which I actually purchased one in Jamaica, because the one I built was of interest to my department at Jamaica Telephone Company, and Mr. Blackwood, Carl Blackwood, told me of this place he was working where they had an old organ. So I purchased the organ, the exact model of this organ, fixed it up, and so forth. Now the common top octave generator is also in this organ. However, this organ uses a couple of chips, and I'll take you through that shortly. And I will also give you a little more detail on the project that I did in 1984, 85, and 86. Okay, they took a lot, because what I did was to build these modular circuit boards and interconnected them. And it was from that I taught myself to play the organ. For the guitar, as I showed in the first part of this video, my uncles Simeon Allen and James Allen were guitarists at the church when Orbella's organ, the reed organ, was not in service anymore. And so even from that, at that time, 1970s, I built an electronic pickup, which I modified an old acoustic guitar to accompany the electric guitar that my uncle had at the time. He had acoustic as well. And so all of those projects I've done. So let me take you through a little walk through this organ to show you how we got to this point. Just before we get there, I'll show you a couple of things. There are two apps I have on this. Okay. Two apps, and one is the Galileo, and the other one is the iCathedral. The iCathedral, which gives me for these MIDI keyboards, I can actually adjust the pitch or the location on the scale where they are. So at this point, with one and one here, these two are on the same, but I'd like to have this a little lower. And then for the bass, I generally adjust for the basses. So all of this comes through the app on the iPad, which is fed through this interface that has a USB connector, and also an audio, unlike the older iPad which I have on this at times. On that one I actually had the both apps. The problem with that old iPad was that that's iPad 2. It didn't have a lot of memory, and also the bit depth. I think it was 32 bits. This one is 64, and so I would have glitches on the other iPad when I'm playing anything. There are times when it would just garble and it gives you a crazy sound out. But this one is much better. This has the original Cathedral, but on it has the Galileo 2. Alright. Another thing about this organ as well, I preserved the original Kimball organ, and so there are a lot of hardware manipulations that I had to do. We'll go into some details, but let me just show you a couple of things here. I've used one of the controls. This was a control for this was a internal control which I modified. It says pedal control, but what I did, and this would probably be some kind of a preamp, because the pedal control is here. Actually, that pedal control is for the notes, not the expression pedal. And so all the volume goes through this iPad. Now, when it comes out as a baseband signal, it is routed through here, and I control it from here. I can control it from here as well. Okay. Another thing that I did was to create another control on the Galileo organ. I can switch the vibrato. As a matter of fact, let's just go there. Got to take that off. Okay, so I can switch the Galileo. And this is taking the control where you have on the MIDI keyboard the pitch bend and also the vibrato control. So what I've done is to route that through from the circuit board that controls the MIDI board and put it here, so that I could also do it here as well. And that's for the speed of the drum, the Leslie speaker. Okay. All right. A couple of other things I've done here, as I said, is for each of these I can adjust the bass. Let's go back to the iCathedral. So if you notice, I can so I can go down to a growl. I can bring that back up. And so I can actually place these anywhere along the continuum of a keyboard. This one actually gives you the expand. So if I press this, I can see where I am. When I press this, you can see I'm further down. Okay, and there we have that. Okay, so let's now get into some of the hardware and the work to get to this point where all controls are at my fingertips. There are other controls I could add over time, and so on. All of these are extended the wires from inside from the control board for the MIDI, because each of these responds to a MIDI board, each of these. And so and this is why I have three USB cables back here into a hub. And what happened is that Acorn carries a lot more features than we are seeing here. Part of the old organ, so let me just, I think I was about to do that. I will turn the volume down from the iPad. You can still hear a bit of that. So I will go here. No, you can't hear that. So why I did that was to have you listen a bit to what the original Kimball M40 organ sounded like. Okay, so I'm pressing one of these. Features include I can get different tones here. So all these features, and yeah, preserve them. The problem is that the integrated circuits that are inside are CMOS, and they become defective after a while, sometimes partially and sometimes totally. Now the CMOS, because of that, I didn't want to dispose of the organ, so what I did was to, as it were, superimpose the connections from the old keyboard underneath the MIDI keyboards. These are not the original keyboards. These are MIDI keyboards that I actually cut the cabinet here to bed these in as well. Okay, so we are going to take a look at the internal of this system. Bear with me. All right, you know, Kimball did a tidy job. I just made their work look so bad by all my wires and this modification. So what we have here are if we look inside here, are these LSIs for the Kimball organ, and these things are not being manufactured anymore. And if you look closely, I think they were American, forget the name of the company, AMI. Okay, they were the manufacturers for these digital chips, and this tells us, this layout tells us about the different boards that we have here. The Keir board, which is the first one on top, so you see that line here telling boards on top and boards below. So we have the Keir, we have the accompanying, and the pedal. So the lower keyboard and the pedal are tied into the second board at the top, and the last board is a solo voicing. So all the notes for the sounds for the top board comes from that, for the top keyboard rather, comes from this top board. All right, then we can see here the logic board for switching from different points. There's TTLs, actually no, TTLs and CMOS boards, CMOS integrated circuits rather. We have the analog, another board analog system, the rhythm, voice. And so this is where we get the maracas and the different sounds for rhythm, the different drum sounds and so forth. And we have solo flute, a dedicated board there for a solo flute, which is the basic voice of the organ. And we have tremolo. And the last board underneath at the lower level is the preamp board into which all of these are fed, and then they are controlled from the outside by the different switches and potentiometers for volume control, such as these. All right. So one of the things I've done is I've preserved these, and these could actually work completely. As I said before, there are just a few keys that do not play here on the upper keyboard, and these chips are highly sensitive to static. As a matter of fact, they do warn you about grounding, LSI, and test instruments so as not to cause a catastrophic failure. I did my best to ensure that all of this was being done properly so we wouldn't have any issues with that. All right, so if you look here, these are some of the boards that were extracted, control board extracted from the Acorn MIDI keyboard. So we have one here, one over here, and another one here. And what I've done is basically to cut the cables and extended them. I soldered them and put the heat shrink on them so that they could be secure. Also tie wrap them to take the tension off. All right. So I've not defeated the functionality of that board. The other thing I've done is also preserve these for the pitch bend and the vibrato. I have maintained those because I do not. If I maybe take them off, they might alter what comes out from the MIDI system. Now there's another board. So these boards at the back. Okay, here we have some of the parts. So I'm underutilizing the boards as they are, but the basic functions that I have, they work for that. If you notice, I have some perforated solder boards here, and these are where I extracted the LEDs, 7-segment LEDs, so that we could have a readout and also do the adjustments or configuration at my fingertips. Okay, so there's a second board, and that second board is, and I'm talking about a second board from the MIDI, from the MIDI system. So here we are. I can just roll that up. Okay. All right. So what I've done, this internal area of the organ facilitated well, just screwing these into the board here of the organ, so they are situated. So if you notice, each one has the USB coming from it, and it also they have individual switches where you could actually switch off individual boards. All right, so there are 3 boards. Now the other board is in the smaller MIDI keyboard at the back, and that's what we tapped into. So you have 1, 2, and 3. Notice again, what I've done is to use different cables. I worked in computers for some time, so I have these extra cables for the hard drive or for the floppy disk drive. So I have cut these cables, and I have used heat shrink tube on them as this is the original one, for example, original cable from the Acorn keyboard, okay, which is into this box, and here we have them. The other thing we have done, this is the upper encoder board for the original organ, and what I've done is to remove, they had these little wires. After I removed them, then what I did was to place them on top of I placed wires really from here to switches on top of the now MIDI keyboard, so that simultaneously pressing a key here would also press a key on the original organ. Wasn't easy to do. As a matter of fact, that was one of the most labor-intensive portion of this project. All right, and I have cut these the original organ cabinet to fit these in. All right, and so we're going to take a closer look now at how we got to this point. The original Kimball organ keyboards were 3.5 octaves, and often I felt as if I were running out of landing space. Because of that, I explored the master key 49 keys keyboard, fully 4 octaves, and also a smaller one, 25 keys for my bass pedals. Doing this, I had to roughly ensure that they would fit, and then I proceeded to measure the cabinet and cut at the different points where I could comfortably nest the keyboards. This took some time. I started with the upper keyboard, and after that was done, I was satisfied with it. Then I decided to proceed to the second keyboard, or the accompaniment keyboard, and then they were finished. And at this point, I decided to remove the boards, the circuit boards, from their housing in the plastic case of the master keyboard. I removed the circuit boards and extended the wires by using cables meant for VGA monitors. And what I did was to cut these wires, sorted them, then added heat shrink, and also tie wrap them to ensure that they were secure. I then proceeded to my workbench, stripping out the complete keyboard and adding these mini switches that would be simultaneously pressed when a key was pressed on the keyboard. These were a little tough to handle, they were hard. And so after testing them and deciding they didn't work, I then proceeded to get guitar strings, a trick I learned from the 1980s, using guitar strings and putting copper bus bars instead of these switches, and then putting tape over to keep them from eroding the rubber underneath the keyboard, underneath the keys, and that seemed to work. So, upper and lower keyboards finished. It was now time to move on to the pedals, the bass pedals. And so I proceeded to open the case, open the back of the organ. So here we are inside the organ, inside the box, the lower part. This is the section for the pedal, expression pedal, and we have the power supply over on this side. Let's clear these out. That's the power supply. Here's a transformer. And we have these speakers which are actually connected in parallel. And here's the main amplifier, as well as we have, there's the other speaker. And there is first of all, this board here was the encoder, the diode encoder board for the pedal. I have disconnected it because the mechanics of the system would not work as well as before. A matter of fact, it doesn't work with the MIDI system. There was no direct way of transitioning from the old analog system, partially digital as well, to the newer MIDI system. So this board is not part of the current circuit. I haven't removed it because sometimes you think you might need to go back and just put it back. So I never throw things away. This metal box here is the reverb system connected to the amplifier system to give you the sound of being in a grand space. Over here we have this small MIDI keyboard which has been wired up and mated up to the pedal. And this pedal is a modification of an old Thomas organ pedal, because the original pedals for this organ were made out of hard plastic material that broke during transportation. And so even fixing them together, we couldn't take the pressure of pressing on them. So there was an old Thomas organ that I dismantled, and I preserved the pedals and went in my garage to look for that, and that came into place well. To modify and install the bass pedal, I opened the Acorn at 25 keys keyboard housing. I removed the circuit board to control the settings from the organ's console. I mapped out the switch points that would be soldered with the VGA cables, cable wires. After that, I bought L brackets and screwed them together in an S shape. Following that, I soldered VGA cables together to the MIDI circuit board to then mate them with the pedal board switches. Now each section was complete and was now a working module. So now we're back inside the organ housing. You can see how they are installed, adjusted and secured. The amplifier system of the organ is a single channel or monophonic instead of stereo. Given time, I might add another amplifier and separate these two speakers for left and right channel. The audio from the iPads are stereo, but I have tied the channels together with a 10 microfarad capacitor on both sides for isolation in series with a 470 ohm resistors, just to keep the iPad circuits safe. And you can see these color shielded cables. These are the preamp lines that are fed into a summing amplifier system or situation, and I selected one of them to insert the signal from the iPads. These are the wooden pedals from the Thomas organ in lieu of the hard plastic ones from the Kimball organ. And that's basically all the hard work to complete this project. And there's more to do, but the basic functions are quite satisfactory. So something of note, I have actually connected two iPads, my iPad 2 and iPad 4 Air, different connections. This one doesn't go into the hub, but this goes into the hub with two two USB connectors. So one for the bass notes pedal, and one for the accompaniment. So one of those things I've had a connection with this iPad and with the old Galileo organ app. It actually has a soulful gospel, which I tried to get back. So here's a sound. Okay. The problem is I tried to see which one, because this name, it does not appear in the legend or in the menu here. So I had to go through and to see which one would sound like. So what I do, I have both of them on 0. And so if I go to F on this, you can hear the difference. So I've tried quite a few different settings to see if I could get that back. What I like about this is it's clean, and even looking at the settings here, this is the closest I've had in terms of preset. This setting deep inside gospel and classic. Okay. Compare this. So that's the closest I've gotten to. What I've done is to, each one that I've gone through is to take a picture of the settings here and the name, so that I would get the exact or close to settings. So I have quite a few pictures I've taken in this, and let me see, the second to last one I did, because the last one is this one. So this one says jazz, old jazz blues. So let's see what that sounds like. Jazz blues, and go to olds. Okay, and I'm assuming that because old, it would probably sound like 1960s. All right. It sounds a little brighter. So it's a little bit, I preferred this original Galileo app, but I'll have to work with that for now, because for some reason this one does not appear on the internet. Again, I had to purchase this one because my iPad got locked up, and when it was restored, the app was it was corrupted, and so I had to purchase the Galileo 2. So I have both of them here. I guess if I expose this too much to the internet, because it's off right now, sometimes they update, and this is something I don't like with some of the companies. You purchase a product from them, and maybe it's in the fine print, is that what they do is that they stay at a remote distance and mess with your software, and so they can actually turn it off. And so this one is not on this is an older iPad. I rarely use it for internet search or so. Okay, but I do like the sound. So I'll just have to get used to it, right? But I kind of got locked onto that one. Okay, so I'll take you to some other features that I have here. Let's look at the new combination with the two iPads. The old connector. And this is the new connector. You can get a variety of connectors to fit. So you can get your audio feed out here. All right, and I did tell you a little bit about the getting the LEDs, the 7-segment LEDs from the control board for the MIDI, and that I've done, cutting a hole here in the organ console, the panel. And these control different, this is for the bass. And then also what I've done is to do this little addition using, I got one of these utility boxes, and made the cut in it after all the measurements and so forth to fit one of these from the original keyboard. Okay, you can see as I change it here. Okay, and for the LEDs, what I have done also is to use these circuit boards, Vero boards. You can get a variety of them. I didn't want to go back to the store, so I bought myself quite a few of them. And that you can wire them together and screw them onto the rear of this panel. So these are some of the things you could do if you are doing modification. Okay, this is still a project that's continuing. Here again is our it's an insignia hub. You can get a variety of hubs to do the same thing, and instead of having three connected in this for the experiment of the two, I have connected two to this iPad and one to that one. Okay. The other thing is these I've tapped into the audio here, tapped into the audio circuitry of the organ to feed into the power amplifier. So I've tapped into the output, or close to the output of the pre-amplifier stage of the internal internal amplifier system of this organ. And I think this could give me the ability to play two different features or presets in these iPads. I could also have on the solo keyboard, where I'm using one preset and a different one on the accompaniment. And so, for example, like playing a solo tune, whereas the one instrument leading like a flute, you would not have that. You would not have to think about the fact that coming from this they are combined, but coming from this, it's just whatever comes out here. So if I set for a flute, that's all I would get through, and then I could have a bunch of settings for this. So you had different combination of instrument simulation, or setting from here on accompaniment, and then a single instrument from the solo keyboard. All right, I hope this inspires somebody who is doing a project like this. And I said the best thing to do is to get an organ that's already there, and just, if you want to gut it or to integrate a new system, that's quite okay.